So, my name is Dave Wickert. I am a program manager with the analysis services team, the folks that brought you PowerPivot. And recently on my blog, PowerPivotGeek.com, some folks have been asking about how to install a system and get it up and running on in a standalone demo system environment. And what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to walk you through how to add the domain controller role to your VM or to your physical machine, and then to run through a PowerPivot installation so that when we're all done, you've got a completed system all up and running on a single box. Okay, great. Let's install a domain controller. So in this case, we've either connected, or you can do a set host into your VM and you're running. Lower left-hand corner with Windows Server 2008 R2, you have the server manager, and you bring it up and it shows you all the different roles and features that are installed in your OS. And a domain controller is one of the roles that your server would run in. As you can see here, we don't have any roles, so we just go over here to add a role, and it will display a list of roles that are available to you. There's a whole bunch that contain the word Active Directory. The one that we want is Active Directory Domain Services. That's the part that gives you a domain controller on your machine. And then you would click Next. And then you start up the wizard where it goes ahead and installs the domain controller. Now, at this point in time, you're not actually configuring your domain. You're just copying the bits in and laying them in and configuring the underlying service infrastructure that there is a domain controller that's going to be on the machine. But we haven't actually named it yet. We haven't done any actual configuration of the domain controller itself. We've just kind of laid the bits in and had things running. So this runs relatively quickly. Again, we're just copying bits in, and now domain controller or Active Directory Domain Services is in and running. And then it gives you this little hyperlink here to go ahead and run DC promo. Now, if you wanted to, you could have run this by hand from the command line if you want to, in which case it just starts up this same UI that we're going to run. When DC promo starts up, first thing it does is it warns you that there are different levels of compatibility depending on what operating system you are. And we'll go beyond that. We'll say that we want to create a new domain in a new forest. The top part is what you would do if you were going to add a backup domain controller or something like that to your network. We're installing a standalone domain controller, so we would just say create a new domain in a new forest. And then it wants a fully qualified domain name, and what we'll do is we'll say bicontoso.com for our domain. It goes out and looks on the network to see if there are any naming conflicts out on the network. We're on a standalone network here sitting inside a VM, so we're not expecting to see any naming conflicts that come up. And it'll then ask me a functional level. This is where I have to worry about compatibility issues between various different operating system features. Within domain controllers, I'm going to be running, since it's a standalone system, I'm just going to run a 2008 R2, and that's perfectly fine because we don't have to worry about any backward compatibility. Then it pops up a window to ask you about what kind of services you want to run, and I'm going to uncheck the DNS server. The reason there is that since I'm all running on a single machine, there's no reason to run any kind of a name service. But if this was on a real network where you had a couple of machines running on the same VLAN, for example, then you would want to have a DNS server so everybody knew about bicontoso.com. I don't need to in my standalone system, so I uncheck that. It says, do you really want to do that? Just to be absolutely sure, and I would say yes. Again, I'm only doing that because this is standalone. Then it allows me to change where I want the various folders that the databases will be created for me as a domain controller. I'll just take the defaults. And now it needs a recovery modes for where if your domain controller becomes corrupted and you have to go back to a backup and have it restored, you'll need this password. Again, since I'm standalone, typically not that worried about it because the domain controller backup will happen along with all the other things that I'm backing up on this server. And that's it. Then I say, yeah, I want to do that, and then the installation goes and starts running, and what it will do is it will create a domain called BI Contosa, and we'll be able to then later on add accounts and things like that inside the domain. And that's basically it. When you're done, everything will be finished. And I can, I have to reboot when I'm done, so I'll just check the little checkbox in the bottom here about running on reboot on completion, and it just goes off and runs for 5 or 10 minutes, and when it finishes, we're ready to go. That's it.
Great.